All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a grand geographical tour of India. But listen, we aren't just going to list off some random mountains and rivers. We're going to explain and narrate the incredible story of this land, exploring how these extreme physical contrasts across a massive landmass actually fit together to form a giant, interconnected engine. And it's an engine that has literally driven human civilization for millennia. When you look at the sheer scale of the subcontinent, it's just mind-blowing. We're talking about a mosaic of deep geological time. You've got these ancient, hyper-stable landmasses sitting right next door to incredibly unstable, youthful, shifting topography. It's an area packed with striking variation. I mean, practically every major physical feature of the planet, mountains, plains, deserts, plateaus, and islands, you can find the whole shebang right here within one national boundary. So here is our agenda for today. We're covering 6 key stops. First, the Himalayan Mountains. Second, the Northern Plains. Third, the Peninsular Plateau. Fourth, the Indian Desert. Fifth, the coasts and islands. And finally, number 6, how it all forms an interconnected engine. All right, stop number 1. The Himalayan Mountains, the majestic northern barrier. Geologically speaking, these mountains are actually pretty young. They're structurally folded, which creates a highly youthful, dramatic topography. We're talking soaring peaks, incredibly deep valleys, and really fast-flowing rivers. They stretch out in a massive arc for an unbelievable 2,400 kilometers, running from the Indus River in the west all the way over to the Brahmaputra River in the east. And the width varies a ton too. It's about 400 kilometers wide in Kashmir, tapering down to roughly 150 kilometers in Arunachal Pradesh. Because of this sheer massive size and ruggedness, they are hands down one of the most formidable mountain barriers anywhere in the world. Now, you can actually break this giant mountain system down into 3 distinct parallel ranges. First up, you have the Great or Inner Himalayas, also known as the Himadri. This is the most continuous range, featuring the absolute loftiest peaks with an average height of around 6,000 meters. And get this, its core is actually made of granite. Then, moving south, you hit the Himachal, or the Lesser Himalaya. That's a highly rugged system composed mostly of altered rocks, and it's famous for gorgeous valleys like Kashmir and Kulu. Finally, you reach the outermost range, the Shivaliks. These are actually made up of unconsolidated sediments that were brought down by rivers from the main ranges high above. Moving right along to Section 2, the Northern Plains, basically the agricultural engine of the region. As we travel south, descending from those towering icy peaks, we step into a completely different world. This is a remarkably fertile, densely populated region, and it's totally dominated by 3 major river systems, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. Over millions of years, these rivers have rushed out of the Himalayas and deposited massive, massive amounts of rich alluvial soil into a vast basin. In fact, this region is so deeply defined by its waterways that the geography is literally baked into the language. Take the word doab. It's made of 2 words, do meaning 2 and ab meaning water, referring to a landmass caught right between 2 rivers. The famous region of Punjab? That literally translates to 5 waters. How cool is that? And honestly, the sheer scale of the depositional work these rivers do as they slow down in their lower courses, it creates some unbelievable natural marvels. A perfect example is Majuli, located right in the Brahmaputra River. It actually holds the title of the largest inhabited riverine island on Earth. Think about that for a second. It's an entire populated world built entirely out of river silt. Next up is Section 3, the Peninsular Plateau, the ancient core. So, as we keep moving further south, leaving behind those flat, sandy plains, we are stepping way back into deep geological time. This plateau is widely considered to be one of the most stable land blocks on the entire planet. It's a true ancient core. You see, the northern plains we just talked about represent a youthful topography built from recent river deposits. But here we're trading that soft, sandy soil for a hard, ancient tableland. This plateau was formed by igneous and metamorphic rocks, born from the breaking and drifting of the ancient supercontinent we call Gondwana land. Bounded by the western and eastern Ghats on its edges, this broad, shallow terrain is packed with incredible geological diversity. We're talking rounded hills and wide valleys made of ancient crystalline rock. And because of this intense, fiery geological history, areas like the Chotanagpur Plateau are basically immense storehouses of mineral wealth. That wealth has become absolutely vital for the industrial development of the entire region.
All right, heading west brings us to Section 4, the Indian Desert, the arid West.
If you venture out westward from the margins of the plateau, past the Aravalli Hills, all that lushness just completely fades away. You step into a vast, arid expanse. The climate here is remarkably dry, getting a meager rainfall of less than 150 millimeters a year. This lack of water creates a really harsh landscape, dominated by low vegetation and sweeping, undulating sandy plains. If you ever visit Jaisalmer, you'll see massive areas covered in things called barchans. These are those beautiful, prominent, crescent-shaped sand dunes that perfectly capture the stark, windswept reality of this arid geography. Which brings us to Section 5, Coasts and Island Groups, the tropical edges. Now we're heading the outer edges of the subcontinent. We're transitioning from the solid continental mass to explore the narrow, coastal plains that hug the plateau, and the remote, biologically rich island groups floating offshore. The Peninsular Plateau is flanked by distinct coastal stretches along the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, and they all have very specific regional names. As you move south along the western coast, you travel from the Konkan, down through the Kaned Plain, all the way to the Malabar coast. Over on the wider, flatter eastern coast, the northern stretch is called the Northern Sircar, which then stretches down into the famous Coromandel coast in the south. Over on that eastern edge, you'll find some truly unique ecological zones formed by massive river deltas from rivers like the Mahanadi and Godavari. A perfect example of this ecology is Chilika Lake. It proudly stands as the largest saltwater lake in the entire country, representing an absolutely crucial habitat just south of the Mahanadi Delta in Odisha. Now, I want you to just think about this sheer contrast here. Just a few minutes ago, we were talking about the dry, sandy dunes of the Indian desert, totally devoid of abundant water. Contrast that with the incredibly vibrant, shallow water coral reefs that make up the Lakshadweep Islands off the Malabar coast. These islands are literally formed from the calcium carbonate skeletons of microscopic colony-living organisms called coral polyps. It's just a fantastic testament to the insane physical variety packed into this one region. Oh, and the surprises don't stop there. If you look all the way across the Bay of Bengal to the elongated chain of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, which, by the way, are believed to be elevated portions of submerged submarine mountains, you'll find something pretty unexpected. Tucked right away in this equatorial, thickly forested island group is India's only active volcano, and it's located, appropriately enough, on Barren Island. And that leads us perfectly into our final section, an interconnected geographical engine. So we've covered some wildly extreme landscapes today. Towering mountains, flat plains, ancient plateaus, dry deserts, and tropical islands. But here's the absolute coolest part. They don't just exist in isolation. They work together perfectly as a highly functional interconnected system. Each region supports the other. The mountains act as major sources of water and forest wealth. The plains down below act as the granaries, providing a massive food base. That ancient plateau acts as a colossal storehouse of minerals, which fuels industrialization. And finally, the coastal regions and islands provide vital sites for fishing and global port activities. It's a completely self-sustaining geographical loop. Which leaves us with a really fascinating question. We know that these diverse, interconnected physical features provided the very foundation for early civilizations in the river valleys, and they continue to fuel modern industrial growth today. So as we look ahead, how will this immense geographic engine continue to shape India's possibilities for future development? Because geography isn't just about where things are placed on a map. It's the very stage upon which a country's future is built. Keep that in mind the next time you look at a globe. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and keep exploring.